This
during the
conference will now
webinar.
be recorded.
Please mute your mic and disable the webcam throughout the session. Kindly do not post any messages when the speaker is sharing the screen. If you have any questions for the speaker, kindly post it in the chat box. Your questions will be answered by the resource person at the end of the session. The link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box after the session is completed. Kindly fill the feedback form. And the e-certificates will be sent to the participants only who fill the feedback form. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dear participants, kindly pay attention to the instructions. Please mute your mic and disable your video throughout the session. Kindly do not post any messages while the presenter is sharing the screen. If you have any questions for the speaker, kindly post it in the chat box. Your questions will be answered by the resource person at the end of the session. The link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box after the session is completed. Kindly fill the feedback form. And the e-certificates will be sent only to the participants who fill the feedback form. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Kindly pay attention to the instructions. Please mute your mic and disable the webcam throughout the session for effective live streaming. Kindly do not post any messages when the speaker is sharing the screen. If you have any questions for the speaker, kindly post it in the chat box. Your questions will be answered by the resource person at the end of the session. The link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box after the session is completed. Kindly fill the feedback form. E-certificates will be sent only to the participants who fill the feedback form. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mrs. Revati Devi Mathur, in charge Villamari Degree College for Women. I welcome you all to the national webinar. Welcome to Villamari, where students are intrigued by the college's unique education philosophy. That is, change is constant. A campus with unlimited possibilities unleashed. We believe in challenges and inspiring the young generation. The college believes in rendering the best academic preparation to achieve in chosen disciplines and equip the students with knowledge and skills to make a real difference. At Villamari College, a student studies in an environment that pursues excellence, values creativity, and gives its graduates the opportunity to become global citizens. The college also visualizes diverse ethnicity, welcoming students from all over the world, bridging the cultural gap with the common objective of education. A student at Villamari is expected to be a taskmaster and have a strong market pulse along with the business skill set. Prompt decision making and hands on solutions are the essentials corporate look for when it comes to hiring candidates for managerial and business portfolio. Business and management is a consistently popular choice among students. We take immense pride in announcing that Villamari Degree College was the first college to be invited for the BBA program by the Usmania University. And since then, Villamari has been offering a cutting edge that makes earning a graduate degree more enriching and collaborative. The ideology promotes an outbound learning experience to imbibe managerial skills, professionalism, teamwork, and global business thinking through practical application of real world concepts. Villamari College is a brainchild of Dr. Philomena, whose over 25 years of untiring service to this institution is indeed remarkable. She is a standing example of a woman entrepreneur who has established this premium institution and sustained since then. If we were to describe her in a word, we would say inspiring, because she has the ability to bring about a change and thereby make a difference in the lives of her students. Today, we are delighted and honored to organize the national webinar on COVID-19, its impact on Indian startups, hosted by the BBA department in coordination with IQAC, Villamari Degree College for Women. We are pleased that today we have delegates from across the country to attend this webinar. I thank you all for taking time out and being here today. I realize that you're fully dedicated to the session that will follow. The webinar is principally designed to keep ourselves aware of the impact that COVID-19 has put on startups and the scenario of entrepreneurship in such testing times in the business world. I wish you an insightful and a productive session today. Thank you. I now request Mrs. Sapna Mathur, Head Department of BBA, to take over the proceedings of the webinar. Over to you, Mrs. Sapna.
Thank you, Revati. Good morning, everyone. The COVID pandemic has rendered a heavy blow and upended every aspect of business. The startup ecosystem of India is facing many challenges stemming from this global crisis. And entrepreneurs are trying to get their ideas off the ground. Some are completely changing the game plan to fit and sustain in the pandemic. We have robust technology, incredible ideas and innovations, yet the tiny tyrant has spread havoc and toppled the world's economy. India witnessed a meteoric rise of startups under Startup India initiative in 2014. But now, as the unemployment and fund crunching has reached historic levels, and it is going to take all of us working together to bounce back. Management as a sector is more hands-on, socially relevant, and remains strong. It has to be upgraded precisely to sustain during the current crisis. The focus, therefore, is on entrepreneurship for the purpose of job creation. Today, from the lens of a business and finance expert, we bring you an exclusive virtual session to offer strategic mentorship, how to re-engineer startups, build a recession-proof business model promoting entrepreneurship, not only to the young generation, but to all the aspirants who idealize being self-employed, shaping up their ideas. We have with us today a pedagogue with skills in accounting and finance. Mr. M. Chandrasekhar is currently working as an assistant professor in the area of finance and accounting at the Institute of Public Enterprise. He holds expertise in delivering lectures in accounting and finance courses to PGDM students and senior management executives on financial modeling in management development programs. Mr. Chandrasekhar has published many articles in leading professional journals, reputed magazines, and business dailies. Mr. Chandrasekhar is a master's in commerce with specialization in accounting and management. He has submitted his PhD thesis in finance with ICSSR Teacher Research Fellowship. His areas of expertise in teaching and training includes accounting, corporate finance, financial modeling, and research interests include empirical research in corporate finance and startups in India. A very delightful welcome to you, sir. I request Mr. Chandrasekhar to take over the proceedings. But before we begin our session, a humble reminder to all the attendees here that your queries and doubts will be addressed after the session ends. Therefore, please drop your questions in the chat box provided. Also, to conserve the bandwidth and for smooth live streaming, please ensure that your videos are disabled and you are on the mute mode. Chandrasekhar sir, please take on from here. Thank you.
Give me 1 second, madam. Just give me 1 second, madam. Yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Okay, we'll start, madam. Hello. Can you screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, you can begin. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Problem is happening here. I don't know. Right. Okay, that's fine. First of all, I think all of you can see my slides now, right? Hello.
So we can see the screen, sir. We can
Right.
see your
That's
screen.
fine. Thank you.
You
Thank
may
you.
begin. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Thank you. First of all, let me thank Villamary College management invited me as a resource person to deliver the lecture on COVID-19 and its impact on Indian startups. And I thank Dr. Swapna Mathur and Revati Mathur and Salma. At the same time, team IQAC as well as team BBA department coordinated this event. Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity for me to interact with the faculty members as well as the students, right? So what I'm going to do in this 1.5 hour session, I'll be talking about the significance of Indian startups, the contribution of Indian startups in the last 6 to 7 years time. And at the same time, what are the challenges they are going to face right now? At the same time, post COVID-19, what the situations are going to be in the case of Indian startups are concerned. So that is what exactly I'm going to do in this 1.5 hour session. So half time I'll be talking about pre-COVID scenario, and the remaining half time I'll be talking about post-COVID scenario. Right. Then I also talk about a couple of my latest articles, very contemporary and which are very much relevant now as well as post COVID-19, and that will motivate you, to think on different lines, and that will help you to do some sort of a research, and you can also do some sort of a writing activity, by looking at those articles, right? So before getting into the topic and before getting into my presentation, let me give you some sort of a background. Why this particular topic? Why COVID-19 impact on Indian startups? See, when lockdown announced on 25th of March, just after 2 to 3 days, I received a call from one of the newspaper editor, and he asked me, Mr. Chandrasekhar, do you have any ideas to write articles? So that was the base actually, to work on this and to develop this idea and to make this presentation as well. So instantly I said, yes, I'm ready to contribute. And immediately I said, COVID-19 impact on Indian startups. So that was the beginning of the story. Why this particular topic? Maybe, it's not my research area, but, I have committed to the editor, and I told him that I'm going to deliver this content, and I promised it, and I delivered, and it got published. And you can see that the result of that work, you can see in the form of an article. And this article published in Business Line, it's a business newspaper, on 19th of April. So I did this work on April 30, and it took almost 20 days to publish in that particular newspaper. Right. So there is a background to this. Why I have chosen Indian startups. If you can see, there are unicorn Indian startups, and these unicorn Indian startups emerged in last 6 to 7 years time. In 6 to 7 years time, these small companies have become unicorns. We'll discuss what is that unicorn and how do we define unicorn, the technical terms of the startups, you are going to get more and more in this particular session, right? So that was the idea, and with that idea, I wrote article on Indian startups. I was comparing Indian startups, how the Indian startup scenario 2 decades back, because startups are there in every country. Startups are there even in our country for decades. We have many family based businesses, they are keep on venturing into different businesses. Now if you take an example of Tata Group, if you take an example of Wipro, Azim Premji or Hinduja, they were all into family based businesses, but slowly they entered into different sectors. They have presence in pharma, they have presence in automotive, they have presence in technology. So I was comparing how these startups are different with those startups. That gave me a lot of insights and a lot of inputs. And by taking those inputs, I developed this article. We'll discuss who are those Chinese investors. They have invested in Indian startups and how much is their investment and etc. We'll discuss about that, right? Then the next thing, immediately I thought, why can't I take it to the regional language, and why can't I publish it in Enadu? So that motivated me to take this article to publish in Enadu, and it got published in Enadu News Daily. And all of Enadu is the second largest circulated paper in the country. As a main editorial they published, and I could see the readers have read, they have contacted me, they have shared their opinion, we have exchanged some sort of ideas, and some startup entrepreneurs are also contacted me at the same time. I was also taking insights and inputs from them in terms of what to do more work on Indian startups are concerned. So these articles will make you to connect with the industry. That is the reason I love to write such kind of articles, to have more and more industry interaction. Right, so these about the latest 2 articles, which are very much latest during the time of lockdown. You can see 21st April and 19th. Let us come to the education system. What we have education system, and in this education system, a very popular one is what the people talks about, especially developed economies talk about STEM education system. In fact, India is also is a kind of a STEM education system. You can see out of 100 students, almost like 70 plus students, they are very keen and to pursue their higher education in terms of STEM field. What is the STEM stands for? You can see, S stands for sciences, T is technology, E is engineering, and M is mathematics. That's how the STEM field of education: sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These 4 letters, you can understand how the schooling system and how the students are getting into 10+2, from 10+2 how they are targeting for NEET as well as IIT, JEE. Why? Because it is because of STEM. And US gives a lot of advantages. US gives a lot of privileges. US gives a lot of relaxations to this STEM professional. So that is another reason the majority students from our country, they are in that bracket of STEM education system. So what we thought, in this STEM, the most important E is missing. That most important E is what? Entrepreneurship. What if there is no entrepreneur? I asked a question: if there is no entrepreneur, do you think this STEM will exist? Right. And I seriously have a doubt. Without entrepreneur, I don't think STEM will exist. And are we teaching entrepreneurship? That is also the next question we asked, right? Then we thought, only entrepreneurship is not sufficient. Why can't we talk about ethical entrepreneurship? So that's the reason we have coined a new term. That new term is about STEAM. You can see STEAM stands for what? Entrepreneurship, sciences, technology, ethics, engineering, and mathematics. So our work is on basically ethical entrepreneurship. We need more and more ethical entrepreneurs. We need more ethical entrepreneurship to be in this 21st century. 21st century requires ethical entrepreneurship and ethical entrepreneurs. We had issues. Already we have seen Indian economy is hitting because of unethical entrepreneurs and unethical business people. I need not talk about those examples. We know why bank NPAs are going up, and if I talk about airline companies, how they are collapsed, right? So we can say that we have entrepreneurs, we have entrepreneurship, but what is missing is what? Ethics. So we thought, education must provide ethics at the same time entrepreneurship. I seriously doubt how many courses at UG level are they teaching about entrepreneurship as well as the ethics as part of their curriculum. So that's how we developed this article, which is very much connected to the startups. And we have taken a copyright for this term, STEAM. STEAM is a registered copyright uh, with my name as well as my student Harsha Sheelam. Then another startup article, we wrote something called career planning in a startup way. Why startup way? There are many students, they come to us and they talk about, sir, should I choose marketing? Should I choose finance? Or should I choose analytics? What do you suggest? He said, why are you predefining yourself that, you want to venture into finance, you want to venture into marketing? Have the taste of all the flavors. I mean, to say, let's go and see, how marketing functions, how finance functions, and how operations functions. Then you try to, develop the career plan. Right? It may not be possible, but at the college level itself, you start developing, you start thinking like, your career is going to be like a startup kind of a thing. And you have a taste of, marketing, finance, and other areas like information technology, operations, and etc. Then you define, which one is you are passionate about. Then slowly, you get into that particular career and you make your career in that startup way, right? And why startup way? Because the startups teaches you, multi skills. Startup is not like, if I'm good in teaching, I can't run a startup. No, entrepreneurs should have complete hold on different functions. That's the reason you see the startup entrepreneurs, they manage operations, they manage finance, they manage information technology, they manage marketing, everything, they take care, right? So that is the reason their risk appetites are more, their stress levels are more. Why? Because they are handling so many functions, right? And this way, they can able to perform multitasking. This way they can able to understand, different functions, and they have the capacity to work on different functions. And ultimately we said, 21st century requires employment generators rather than employment seekers. We want more and more young crowd to get into the startup side and generate employment to the employment seekers rather than waiting for employment, right? And yeah, so that is the background of this particular article. Right. At the same time, yeah.
Sir,
Hello.
sorry to disturb you. Could you kindly roll your slides, sir, as you speak? Kindly change your slides as you speak.
Oh, is it not working? Can't you see my
right
slide?
now, yes, we can see the slide, but it is only the first slide that is on your screen, sir.
Oh, just a minute. Let me see. I was wondering why. I'm sharing my slide here actually. Just a minute. Okay, can you see now? Okay, can you see now? Hello?
Yes, now you have. Yes, sir, we can see the change of the slides now.
Just a minute, but now can you see? I think some technical issue is taking place here. Is this fine now?
Yes, sir, it is very fine. Now we have the change of slides.
Which slide are you seeing now? Can you tell me?
It is a Telugu slide, and then it is on career planning. You're changing two slides. It's
Just
not STEM, it's STEAM. Career planning a startup way.
Okay. Okay. Okay, right. Career planning a startup way, you can see right now, right?
Yes, sir, we can see that
that's
slide.
Fine. That's fine. Very good, very good, very good. So for the time being, I think I captured the previous one. Okay, right. Career planning as a startup way, right? So this I was referring to it, right? Then we wrote another article by name Human Boss versus Machine as a Boss. This is very much relevant now, and rating matters in this competitive world. Why human boss versus machine boss? These days you can see how startups are using technology to provide the service. How startups are using to control their employees, and they are monitoring their performance using machines. And they are using those machines to evaluate their performance. So that's the reason you can see one side you have ratings and other side you see the machines as a bosses. All right. So this is very much relevant even post COVID-19 as well. Why? Because IT sector is very much happy with employees working at home, because they are saving huge cost. At the same time, the employee performance is going up. But the question is, how are you going to monitor their work? How are you going to assess their performance, right? So for that purpose, they may develop some kind of a machine app, some kind of an algorithm to track these employees and how are they working on various projects, right? Then on the rating matter side, you see, everything these days, everything comes with a rating, right? You name anything, without rating, you don't see anything. Everything is rated. Country is also having a rating. State is having a rating. Individuals are having rating. Businesses are having rating. Everything is rating. And who does this rating? What is the mechanism of doing this rating? So based on that, we wrote this article. These two are going to exist even post COVID-19. The companies are they are going to use machine bosses in order to rate their employees, to incentivize them, to give them the bonus. This is relevant forever. Why? Because we need to survive, whether it is pre-COVID or during the COVID or after COVID. We need to survive, and to survive, the mantra is what? Help yourself and sell yourself. We need to help ourselves, because in this crisis time, in this lockdown time, I think many many people are under stress, because they are not going to offices. Some of them are they don't have jobs, so even if they have jobs, they are sitting and they are working at home. And some of them are very much addicted to offices. Everyone is having some or other stress. So to overcome that, we should always help ourselves and equip and generate and develop new skill set in order to sell ourselves in the market in a better way, right? So for that purpose, there are various platforms. I think some of you have known these platforms, and maybe some of you are not known. And LinkedIn is is the best source in order to help yourself. Why? Because LinkedIn is all where you can connect with industry professionals. Industry professional talks about what are the changes going to happen in the future, and what skill sets are going to change, how the businesses are going to change, and that will help you where to develop, which skill to update, and how to do this network building with such people and etc. So I'm sure that if you don't have any LinkedIn account, I advise you to open a LinkedIn account and be active as a participant is concerned. GitHub is basically for IT professionals. These days IT hiring is happening that what code you have developed. Previously it was like one-to-one interviews. No, that is not. The moment you apply to a company, they see that have you developed any code, have you written any code, and they'll verify that code using this GitHub. So there are professional coders, there are IT employees, they are contributing their work through this GitHub. Many companies are while recruiting, they are looking at this GitHub platform. Most of the data analytics resources are also there. Instagram for fun, many people are using, but there are people who are making careers using Instagram. Instagram influencers. There are influencers in Instagram. Companies like HUL, PNG, and even startup companies are approaching those influencers, and they are trying to campaign their products using these influencers. At the same time, because they are influencer means what? They have a followers, and those followers can able to see the company products and etc. These are the ways the things are happening. Before COVID as well as after COVID, also it will be the same case. In fact, after COVID, it will be much more. Why? Because many people are connecting these days to devices, and many people are using social networking sites, Instagram and etc. Right? But use them in appropriate manner, and use it for to make a career. Let us come to the topic. I was talking about the Indian startups, Indian startup unicorns. Let us see, we have around 25 Indian startup unicorns. We'll discuss, what is that unicorn. But I thought, let me, to take out top 5 unicorns, which are very much familiar to the crowd, which are very much familiar to the markets, right? And I need not talk about what is their, because most of you know what is their business and etc. Right? So how do we define a unicorn? Unicorn is nothing but a private company or a startup firm with a valuation of more than $1 billion. $1 billion is nothing but 100 crores in US dollars or more. Such a company, we call it as what? Unicorns. Right. So there are 5 top Indian unicorns. We can see, Oyo is one, Ola is one, Swiggy is one, Baidu is one, Paytm is one. right? So why they have become in a span of 5 to 7 years, they have become 100 crore US dollar company. US dollar, if you multiply with Indian currency right now, if you see 79 rupees, these companies are valued more than 7,900 crores. Oyo is valued more than 7,900 crores. Ola is valued 7,900 crores. These companies were not existing, maybe a decade back or maybe 8 years back. 8 years back, 2011, 12, if you see, I was not knowing what is this Oyo and what is this Ola and etc. You see the development, the ecosystem and the kind of startups what we have come across in the last 5 years, 5 to 7 years is remarkable. And these companies have generated huge growth and they have become a unicorn, right? Why do you think so? They have become so rich in 5 to 7 years. It is because of the very first reason is because of they attract human capital. They are getting human capital from eminent institutions. If you have a human capital from eminent institutions, and that is the secret of these startup companies. We have seen WhatsApp posts, Uber, Ola, they don't have any car, they don't own any car. Oyo rooms, not they don't own room. These are all facilitators. They are not you can see, they are not doing manufacturing business, or they are not doing hotel business. No, these are all facilitators. You can see Oyo is a facilitator, Ola is a facilitator, Swiggy is a facilitator, and Baiju is also a facilitator. All of them are doing a facilitator business. It's a new business model, and they have taken the advantage of this new business model, and they have converted this new business model into unicorn. It is purely because of their human capital. That is a reason. I think one thing is missing in that. That is what human capital. You don't talk about human capital, but for them, human capital is the biggest asset, because they develop the technology, they write the algorithms. They write. They try to absorb. What customer is thinking. What kind of payment pattern he can able to afford. What is his behavior? Everything. That particular human capital is working on the algorithms, and that is a big secret of these startups are successful, right? So we'll talk more about the details and the fact set. I'll talk about the fact sheet of all these unicorn companies. After a couple of slides, we'll discuss what are those fact sheets, and why they have become so rich in a span of 5 to 7 years. But question is, are they going to sustain post COVID-19? That also we are going to discuss. Let's see their contribution in terms of employment numbers. You can see, Baiju is having an employee number of 3,200. These are all latest figures. Oyo rooms, you can see 20,600 is what their employment figures. Swiggy contribution is 11,000. I am not talking about the delivery boys. Delivery boys are not the employees. I'm talking about the white collared employee who is working in the head office, who is working in the marketing department, who is also working in the technology department. I'm talking about the direct payrolls. I'm not talking about the half payrolls. So these are the number of employees. You can see, 3,200, 20,600, 11,086. Zomato, Ola also you can see, Paytm also you can see. You can see their contribution towards it. They are giving the direct employment. At the same time, you can see how much of the indirect employment they are generating. If you ask, if you look into Ola, there are so many car drivers in the entire nation. I didn't get that particular data, how many cars are assigned with Ola and etc. But that data is missing. But you can see that number is huge. That number is huge. And those who entered as agent with Ola in the very beginning of the years, such as 2012, 13, 14, they have purchased one car, and in 3 years time they have purchased another 2 to 3 cars. That's how they have made during the time of initial period. I mean to say 2012 to 2015, or even 16 also, you can say they have made their investments multiple. They have recovered their investment, at the same time they have reinvested in that particular model, right? The same case with Oyo rooms as well. So they are generating direct employment, they're also generating indirect employment, right? We'll see what are the challenges they are going to have. And Paytm, I need not talk about. Paytm, everyone knows, after demonetization, how the Paytm captured the growth. At the same time, during this lockdown, I think many people are using Paytm again. Their number of users are quite increasing because of lockdown and because of this COVID, right? So we'll discuss the things about these companies as we move forward. But this is what the startups contribution towards the economy. That's the reason I thought I'll put the employee numbers. This data is very difficult to get, but I thought of showing you this particular. So the Indian IT Association, that is what NASSCOM presented. How many unicorns are there in India? You can see the numbers. They have compared the data 2018, 2019. They have presented the data till September 2019. You can see the number of unicorns. As of now, you can see 24 unicorns. Actually, there was a latest report in the month of January 2020. They were expecting by the end of 31st March, 2020, the unicorns are going to be like 52. India is going to have 52 unicorns. But after this lockdown, some deals that didn't happen, and some because as you see, the entire world is suffering. That's the reason there are that thing not happened. But we'll see whether that happens or not. But you can see as of now, you can say 25 Indian unicorns are there, and you can see the growth in 1 year from 17 to 26. And you can see the number of startups growth. How many number of startups are increasing if you compare with the last year to this year? 8,200 was 2018 data, and 9,300 is what 2019 data. So many startups, every year they are coming out into the markets, and we'll see. The success rate is only 30%. 70% of these startups are going to collapse in the initial stages itself, but 30% are going to remain. Maybe 20% are going to remain. Total funding also you can see in terms of US dollars is concerned, 4.2 billion, and 2019 you can see 4.4 billion dollars. So this is the report which is generated by NASSCOM. So this is on the funding side. How are they getting funding? How many startups are there? At least some approximate number. You will get the idea. Okay, so many startups are there. So much of funding is there. And unicorns are not 5, there are 24 unicorns, and easily our country becomes easily they can make 50 unicorns. That is very much possible, right? So that is about the unicorn part, and that is about the how many employees are there, and what is their contribution towards the economy. Let us see. This slide is my favorite slide, and I always talk about this particular slide, but this slide talks about the business. Here you can see in this particular slide, you can see every circle is a business. Suppliers are there, customers are there, employees are there, and stockholders are there, debt holders are there. Everything is connected. So what happened is COVID-19 disconnected all these circles. Because of lockdown, what happened? Suppliers can't able to meet firm, and firm can't able to sell the product to customer. Firm can't able to handle employees, and at the same time, financial markets. We have seen what happened with financial markets. We have seen what happened with Nifty, what happened with the Sensex, and etc. Right? Otherwise, in a normal scenario, things are very much connected. Things were good looking. You were talking about 5% growth, 6% growth, right? But this pandemic has disconnected entire thing. That's the reason these are all now we can see isolated circles. This is for a normal business. I'll talk about the startup business in a different manner, right? These are not only businesses. For me, each circle is also a function. In an organization, you have a marketing team who takes care of customer, HR team who takes care of employees, operations team who takes care of suppliers, and finance team who takes care of the shareholders as well as the debt holders, and all put together we call them as firm, right? So what happens when they are connected? There is an exchange of cash. Every time you see if transaction is moving from suppliers to firm to customer, and transaction is moving from firm to employee, there is an exchange of cash. Some cash inflows are taking place, some cash outflows are taking place when they are connected. Now you see there is a disconnection which happened because of this pandemic. That's the reason you see everyone is talking about cash crisis, because they are disconnected. If they are disconnected, how there is a possibility of cash inflows and cash outflows, and cash management has become a big issue for existing businesses, for established businesses, at the same time even for startup businesses. So startup businesses are struggling hard. Why? Because they have delivered the product, and their cash is with the customer, and the customer is not able to sell. So because of that, they are not getting their cash. If they don't get their cash, how do you think will they be able to pay employee salaries or maintaining that particular startup and etc. Even for big businesses, it is the same case. So, every circle is a function, and every circle itself is also a business, right? So you can also think, every circle, as I said, if you are from marketing background, you can see, how the circle is getting affected. If you are from finance background, how the circle is getting affected. So that is the intuition you can think, and you can get a few key takeaways, right? So let us see in the case of startup scenario what happens. In the startup scenario, everything remains the same, but in terms of access to financial markets, startups are not going to get access to financial markets directly. No. So that's the reason startups, they have a different kind of sources of finance, and in that sources of finance, you can see, the first one is about family and friends. At the initial stage, at the inception stage, at the idea stage, they get funding from family and friends. Then HNIs, that is what, high net worth individuals. Then you have trusts, various trusts are there in the country, they are helping incubation of the startups. Then there are angel investors, they invest in seed capital. And then you have venture capitalists. These venture capitalists, they invest in various startups with different series. They call it as series A funding, series B funding, series C funding, and like that, it will go up to funding and etc. We'll discuss, how that works and etc. Right? Otherwise, every cell remains the same, every product remains the same. But what if, if it is a startup, which is in SaaS, SaaS, software as a service kind of a business? What if the startup is doing a facilitator? So in that case, what happens? In some cases, you may not see suppliers, but you may see only employees and customers, right? What if they are into manufacturing? Then they need suppliers, then they need employees at the same time, customers. So we'll talk about, what kind of startup, what is the key input for them, right? Employees as well as suppliers, right? In terms of access to financial markets, I said startup companies will not access to equity markets and debt markets. So that's the reason they have to go to the different route. The different route is about what, family and friends, HNIs, trusts, and venture capitals. Let us look at this particular slide, how the startup financial cycle is different from the existing one. See, we always teach, as a commerce teacher, as a commerce faculty, or a management faculty, as a finance faculty, we always teach equity is equity capital. Equity capital is not easy to get. Equity capital is not easy to get. So that's the reason, startup guys, they have good ideas. They have good ideas, but those ideas are not encouraged by the markets. That's the reason you see many startups will collapse. Why? Because the crux here is what the funding, whoever gets the funding, they have an opportunity to take that idea to forward and ensure that, the product is delivered and product is successful. So you can see in this particular graph, revenues on one side and time is on another side. And there is a valley of death. You can see, very bottom, there is a valley of death. What is this valley of death? These are the startups before reaching break-even point, they end up losing their existence. That is what the valley of death. I was talking about 70% startups are going to die, and that is nothing but the valley of death. Why? Because getting idea, getting seed funding, right, and making that particular product to break even is not easy. It's not an easy task, right? By the way, who will fund this? Up to a valley of death, who will fund the money? There are accelerators. We call it as what, angel investors, or FFF. FFF is nothing but, family, friends, and fools. That is the term in startup language they use. So angels are investing initial capital, and FFAs is also investing initial capital. Angel investors are also investing in initial capital. We call that capital as a seed capital. So that is what the first part of the story. So once you cross the break even, and once you start showing some result, like, your product is very much viable, and your market is existing, you can see that, the market is encouraging your product. In that case, what happens? You slowly, you move forward to reach to first stage, then second stage, then third stage, then you get into the later stage, and finally, you get into IPO business and etc. Right? So what are these first, second, and third stages, and how do you get funding? So that for that, you can see here, average seed funding is roughly about $1 million, $1.1 million. So Series A funding, if you see, Series A funding is what, after break-even point, and you are an early stage startup, and where the venture capitalists, they see whether your product is viable or not. If your product is viable, they try to invest in such company. So that that capital we call it as what, Series A funding. And in the industry market, if you see, to get 15 million average seed funding, in order to get 15 million average seed funding, the value of that particular startup should be around 22 million. That is what the median, that's what the median pre-valuation. So if a company is having a median pre-money valuation of $22 million, and the venture capitalists are ready to invest on an average $15 million, these are all average, not exact. No one will say no exact amount, because as I said, startup industry, we don't have the access to the data. They don't reveal the data, but getting this information, averages will help incubators as well as the entrepreneurs. Okay, how much can I target? Okay, if my target is 10 million, so in order to have 10 million funding, how much should be my value of the company? So that is what the question I answered in the form of Series A funding. Then go to second stage. Second stage, they require Series B funding. That is what you can say, taking the business to the next level and to the development stage. So the average funding in Series B is what, $32 million, and to get this $32 million, the value, the median value, the median pre-money valuation is $58 million. So if a startup is having roughly approximately median value money of $58 million, they can able to attract $32 million. That is about the second stage funding, or you can say Series B funding. Then third funding onwards, you can see third funding is nothing but C, D, E, and F, and G, and H. Till this IPO line, you can say all these are what different series funding. These are all growth stage funding, you can say, or later stage funding, you can say. And in order to get CDE kind of a funding, the average funding is what, $55 million for a company which is having a valuation of $115 million. So these numbers are very much important. We come across so and so OYO rooms have got Series H funding. What is that Series H funding? Whether it is initial stage or growth stage, or even they are moving next to growth stage and etc. So for that purpose, this will help you in terms of what is Series A funding, Series B funding, Series D, E, and F funding. One other important aspect: whoever invests in Series A funding, that is what, it's a kind of a preference capital. It's a kind of a preferred share capital. So that is the difference. So from Series B onwards, you can see slowly equity capital will grow. So predominantly Series A talks about the preferred equity or preferred capital. Right. So this you can differentiate between a normal business versus startup business. You can see how the capital is getting into the startup company, and what they look for is also we have, right. So the challenges what COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, because of this COVID-19, many startups are going to have their impact on valuation. So their impact on valuations means what? Their valuations goes down. If their valuations goes down, it is obvious that their mean funding also goes down. Their funding also goes down. So that becomes a big problem. So we'll address that as we move forward. So this is how you can see the startup financing cycle, which is completely different from a normal business case scenario. In a normal business case scenario, we see we always begin with capital, equity share capital, preference share capital. That is not easily accessible. Right. So let us see how this Swiggy and OYO rooms raised their capital. You can see Swiggy raised from Series A to Series H. You can see how much capital they have generated. Series A funding was 2 million, B funding was 16.50, C funding 35, right? And you can see Series H is what, $1 billion. They have generated funding of $1 billion. And look at their valuations. Why valuations? Because valuations will fetch you the funding. If you don't have valuation, you can't able to get the money, right? So you can see their valuations. Series C funding, at the time of Series C funding, their valuation was $130 million, and you can see Series C funding $35 million plus another $7 million. Same case with the Series D, Series G, at the same time Series H also. Series H, you can see a $3.30 billion valuation attracted $1 billion from the venture capital. So that is the relation between startup valuation versus raising fund. Same case with OYO rooms also. You can see what happened in the case of OYO rooms. The valuation is $5 billion, and they have generated huge capital in the last 2 years, especially 2018, 2019. They have generated huge capital, and you can see You can see Series B funding, C funding, Series D funding, and Series F funding also you can see. That is the relation between valuation and raising of capital is concerned, right? So what do they do? No, they have taken this much capital, and what do they do with the next one? Are you getting? So raising finance is an important aspect. So in order to get raising finances, the valuation is matter. So that's the reason many entrepreneurs, many startuppreneurs, they always worried about valuation. What is my value of the startup? What is my value of the startup? Why? Because to go for that funding purpose, they should have some valuation calculations with them. What is the value of that particular startup, right? So that is most important topic, how to value a startup. That's altogether a different topic, right? So let us see, come back to the normal business. Here you can see there are some figures. You can see balance sheet data is given for 2019 and 2018, and company to balance sheet data is also given. And more or less you can see the figures are same, 10,000 and 2,000, and here you can see 2,000 and 10,000. The change in cash is very much equal. You can see, change in cash in the first case is positive 8,000, change in cash in the second case is negative 8,000, right? In generally, if there is no lockdown, if there is no COVID, I used to ask, okay, in which company will you invest? So few answers were like, I'll invest in company 1 because there is a positive cash. I'll invest in company 2 because there is a negative cash. Negative cash is nothing but, they are investing. They are investing. That's the reason their cash flow is negative. Positive cash can be, say, they are not investing at the same time. They are taking the results of investing. But because of this lockdown, because of this COVID, investors are going to prefer the first balance sheet. Why? Because first balance sheet is a cash-rich balance sheet. Cash-rich balance sheet. Second balance sheet is not cash-rich balance sheet. It is a cash-weak balance sheet, right? So startup companies which comes in the category of 1, I think they are going to have plenty of opportunities, because we are sitting with cash. You are going to maintain your startup, right? For next 3 years. At the same time, you can also acquire other startups at a lower prices. So company 1 can do a remarkable things post COVID-19, and company 2, I think shortage of cash will create a lot of problem, and under such conditions we'll go with the cash rich company. By the way, the change in cash happens because of 3 activities. All of us know: the operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. We'll see how they are spending, the startups, where they are spending. Are they spending on investing side, or operation side, or financing side? That also will address as we move forward to the lecture, right? Now let us try to understand this cash flow metrics. Here we have 5 different firms. We can see there are some positive signs and negative signs. Positive sign is about cash inflow, negative sign is about cash outflow. You can see firm 1 is positive, negative, negative. It means what? Firm is doing well in terms of operations are concerned, so they are getting positive cash from that. Investing cash flows are negative because they are doing well. They need to capture the growth. They are investing. At the same time, FCF is negative, means what? They are not taking any loans, and they are repaying their debts, and they are paying dividends, and they are clearing their finances, right? So that's about the firm 1. On contrary, if you see firm 5, operating is negative, investing is negative, financing is positive, right? No, so every firm belongs to a different industry. Each firm belongs to a different industry. Firm 1 may belong to a different industry, firm 4 may belong to a different industry, firm 2 may belong to a different industry. If you have time, you can think, which one is firm 1, which one is firm 2, which one is firm 4. But here I would like to help you out with the firm 5. Firm 5 is an example of startups. Firm 5 is an example of startup. Startup companies are going to have negative operating cash flows and negative investing cash flows, and their financing cash flows are positive. Because as we have seen how the funding, the value of debt, and then you can see Series A funding to Series funding, like H. We have seen their finances are going up, going up, going up. Where do you think they invest? They invest that particular amount of money in operating cash flows and investing cash flow. That's the reason their OCF is negative and ICF is negative. In a typical scenario, a startup company takes 6 to 7 years to make their operating cash flows positive, and they till the time they keep on investing. Firm 1 is an example of IT companies. I'm not talking about startup, but firm 1 is an example of IT companies and pharmaceutical companies. Their operating cash flows are huge, and they are investing. At the same time, pharma companies are investing in R&D. IT companies are investing in acquiring other companies, and their debt cash flows are very much low. The rest of the firms, you take time and you try to identify which are those firms and etc. That will give you some sort of intuition. You are trying to connect how cash flows, how cash flows, cash inflows and cash outflows are happening with different industry, and how COVID-19 is going to have impact on. So COVID-19 is going to have impact on this cash flow matrix. Firm 1 is going to have an impact. Firm 5 is also going to have an impact. Let us see on the startup front. This is a simple table. I have seen, why operating cash flows are negative. Why so much negative? Here I came across, these are the 4 companies, Paytm and PhonePe and Google Pay and Amazon Pay. All of them are startups. Even though Google Pay is part of Google company, but this particular unit, it's a kind of a startup unit. Amazon Pay is also the same. Right. Look at their spending, how much they have spent on advertising and promotional expenses in last 2 years. Paytm spent 2224, and last year and for 2018 and for 2019 they spent 3451. How much they have spent in terms of advertising and promotional. What are these advertising and promotional expenses for Paytm? Such as like cashback offers, some reward points, some kind of gift coupons. That's how they try to log in, right? They send you SMS. If you pay this bill, you will get a cashback of 5%. So those cashbacks, you can see how much in terms of crores. Same case with PhonePe. PhonePe 602 crores towards 1296. You can see 200%, almost like their spending went up, from $600 to 600 crore rupees to 1300 crore rupees. Now, how much they have spent money? You can see. Google Pay, you can see 3 times. 3 times is what they have spent, and Amazon Pay is also what you can see, 264 and 1277. Why are they spending? Because they need the users. They need the data. They need the users, and in order to get the users, they spend money. So what happened post-COVID? Post-COVID 2019, these companies are not going to have the luxury to spend this way. That is first effect. I don't think Paytm is going to offer something like 5% cashback post-COVID. I'm seriously doubt. Why? Because for them the biggest problem is what? Cash crunch. We discussed. Funding is going to be a big issue, and if funding is going to be a big issue, in that case, what happens? Companies will try to cut down their advertising expenses, promotional expenses. And you can see all these 4 companies put together, they have spent how much? 7,050 crores. And you can see the revenue from this particular sector. The revenue is only 5,150 crores. So where is the 2,000 crore? That 2,000 crore is lost. That loss is beared by all 4 companies. So that is the reason their operating cash flows are negative, because they keep on spending money, keep on spending money, keep on spending money in terms of offers for a period of 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, till the time they establish, right? So this is an example, how their operating cash flows are going to get affected. So like this, there are other startups. Oyo does the same thing, Ola does the same thing, Swiggy also does the same thing. Just to increase their user base. If you're a new customer, if you're a new number, let's say, if you have taken a new SIM, they'll give you 10% discount. But you're an existing user, then that discount will come to 5%. And repeatedly, if you are buying, they'll not allow you any discount at all. Why? Because the algorithm knows that you are our regular customer. If it is a new number, algorithm doesn't know, okay, he's a new customer, so I should offer 10%. So that's how they spend money on technology as well. The technology cost what they incur on that particular startup is also part of operating cost. So as I said, the funding is going to be a big problem for the startup company. So let us see the matrix, the startup company cash flow matrix. How are they going to be? Right. So let us look at the scenario A first. Then we'll go to scenario B, scenario C. In scenario A, let's say this particular startup company is having a cash balance of let's say 12 lakhs. Cash balance of let's say amount is what 12 lakhs. And their cash burn rate, I'm using a term cash burn rate. Cash burn rate is nothing but their spending. Their cash burn rate per month is 1 lakh. So in that case, what happens with the 12 lakhs and having 1 lakh every month as a spending, they can able to survive only 12 months. That's the reason we call it as what 12-month runway. How are you getting this 12-month runway? It is 12 lakhs divided by 1 lakh. 12 lakhs is nothing but the cash balance, and 1 lakh is what the cash burn rates. That will give you what 12 months runway. So if you see the example in this case, if it is a 3 months lockdown, and if you have a 12 months runway of cash, you are not taking any kind of cost cutting decisions or any kind of strategic decisions. Your company is going to survive only for 12 months, right? Look at the plan B. What if the plan B, in plan B, what happens? What if the company takes a decision to cut 15% operating expenditure? 15% OPEX. In that case, what happens? The runway will increase from 12 months to 18 months. It means what? the same startup company will survive, instead of 12 months, it will survive 18 months, right? So that is one story. Then you can also, let's say management decide, no, we'll cut 25%. So in that case, what happens? It is almost like double. By reducing your operating expenditure, you are increasing the runway of cash balance, for 24 months. It means what startup can survive from 1 year to 24 months. So that is the reason you can see now all startups are firing their employees. Why? Because now they are moving from plan A to plan B, from plan B to plan C. Oyo has fired employees, and Ola is also fired employees, and Airbnb, which is a US based company, they have also fired employees. Uber is also firing employees because they know. Why? Because they should know, how much is their runway of cash and how much is their cash burn rate, and what if the lockdown is 3 months. And you can see the same numbers are given for 6 months. What happens if it is a 6 months lockdown? We don't know, right? Whether it's 6 months or 12 months and etc. So this matrix will help them how to be ready with your runway of cash. So the scenario B, if you see, in the case of scenario B, you bring the same example here, 12 lakhs versus 1 lakh. In the scenario B, if 6 months lockdown happens, then your survival rate in plan A is only 9 months. You can able to survive only 9 months. Forget about 12 months. Then cut down 15% operating expenditure, your survival rate improves. You can able to survive 12 months, then 25% is what 18 months. This is the cash flow matrix which is prepared by Sequoia Capital to help many startup entrepreneurs, because they don't know how to calculate these figures. How much runway of cash should I maintain, how much cash burn rate should I have, and how do I calculate these figures. What if the lockdown is 3 months or 6 months or 12 months and etc. As you see the news, right? Some people are saying this will continue for next 6 months, or this disease is going to be existing, this pandemic is going to be existing in the market. So everyone is clueless. Some of the projections are on the worst side, some of the projections are on the higher side. So that's the reason this cash flow matrix is prepared by Sequoia Capital, which is a VC company, venture capitalist company, to help the startup-preneurs. You decide whether you want to be in plan A, plan B, plan C, and most of the companies have already started, they have already ventured into plan B. They are reducing their operating expenditure. If condition become worse, if lockdown extends, if pandemic continues to grow, then they may come from plan B to plan C also. So that is the purpose of showing this particular cash flow matrix. So COVID is having impact on startup companies' cash flows, their runways, their burn rates, and etc. Right. So that's about the cash. Let's see the emerging startups. What's happening on the other startups. We discussed about 5 unicorn startups and etc. Let's see some of the emerging startups. I think most of you are aware of Unacademy. Unacademy is only, it got established in 2015 or 16. It's only 3 years old company. Initially, they started the same company as a YouTube channel. They created one YouTube channel and they named that YouTube channel as Unacademy. And now that company is having a runway of cash for 3 years. A runway of cash for 3 years, and that is an education based company. You can say edutech startup. That is an edutech startup which provides the competitive examinations coaching, such as UPSC, SSC, right, the statewide examinations, NCRT examinations, right. So they are giving coaching in national languages, as well as they are also giving coaching in regional languages. Their user base is increasing day by day. Accordingly, their valuations are also increasing day by day. Accordingly, they are getting funding. So that you can call it as what emerging startup, which is growing. Users are also growing, valuations are growing, funding is also growing. So that is what the Unacademy. By the way, the founder of Unacademy is what Roman Saini. Roman Saini is a former IAS officer. He quit during the training program of IAS. In fact, he is a medicine graduate from AIMS Delhi. That is the background. Because he is passionate about teaching, he is passionate about education. He ventured into this company, and this company is having a bright future. And I was listening to one of the co-founder of this particular company. That co-founder mentioned, company is having 3 years of runway of cash. They are not bothered. They can survive happily. The 3 years, the valuations are going up, and because of this COVID, users are increased very much. Users are increased. They are providing coaching for competitive exams, as I said. I think Shuttle, I think whoever is working in IT or IT side, IT Gachibowli and that side, Shuttle is also a startup company. It is a community, it is a community travel kind of a platform. It is headquartered based in Bangalore. I think they were doing very well. In fact, before COVID, they were doing very well. I could see, the number of buses, the number of minivans. They were taking all the employees from one location to another location, and they are making commute is easy. And because of this pandemic, I don't know how much this pandemic is going to affect on their valuations. Why? Because now you talk about social distance. I can't travel in the bus, where you see the bus is full, right? I can't travel in a car where the car is full, right? So in that case, I don't know how the growth is going to have impact on that particular startup company. So they need to re-innovate their business model, at least to overcome this pandemic, because people are talking about this pandemic will continue till the end of 2020. Even if it is that 6 months or 7 months, already they have lost their revenues for last 3 months, and another 9 months if it happens, I think it is very difficult to survive that particular startup, right? Coming to the next startup, Bambari, this is my friend's startup. Is based out of Cochin, and it is a very unique idea, and it is doing well. But I can understand the pain of an entrepreneur here. I could see him. I met him in the month of January, and I could see how much risk he is taking, and he is feeding almost like 25 families, and he's struggling hard to push this particular product. This Bambari is nothing but it produces the baby diapers, and these are fashionable diapers and reusable diapers, and which saves the environment, which saves the planet. So he was, when he was my colleague, he always talks about the climate change, about the environment, about the greenery. So such kind of a person, and he was into teaching. Then he moved to set up this particular company, and in fact he did. I truly I wondered, he created a plant and advanced machinery, and people are working, and they are working hard. But I could see the challenge is what, because of this lockdown, the input material they get from China. During that time, Corona is very much peak in China, and the input material was a big issue for that particular startup. At the same time, he had a financing problem also. The financing funding was also a big issue, but somehow he managed financing. But immediately you see the Corona effect, and his material got affected. So it is very difficult to manage and execute these startups. But his product has won several awards by TIE. That is what the entrepreneurship zone. TIE awards he won. TIE awards. At the same time, they got funding from different companies. They also got funding from Times of India in terms of space is concerned, and etc. So that's about the emerging startup. So then you have Aptech. This is this Haptic is artificial intelligence based startup company. It is also going to see artificial intelligence is going to have a great future. Why? Because now people are this COVID-19. I think telecom companies are doing extremely well. Why? Because you see how the data is using, how the data is consumed by the users. Everyone is sticking with phones. Everyone is sticking with internet, right? And this is what AI wants. If more and more users, it will be a good news for artificial intelligence, and they can able to analyze human behavior, human patterns, and etc. So that is about that. The moms and company, this startup company is exclusively focused on newborn babies, and they are going to provide some products exclusively for newborn babies. They are also doing well. Ixigo, I think this guy is in trouble. Why? Because you can see the symbol itself that talks about the travel booking kind of a site, and travel is out and out gone. Then you can see the tourism is also going to get affected. So I don't know what is going to happen with Ixigo. Million Moms is Hyderabad based startup. See the women employees who are working, and they have taken a break. After the break, they want to relaunch their career. For them, the Million Moms is going to be the helpful. This startup is helping such women employees who are very much interested to be an entrepreneur, right? You have taken a break and you want to make your career. So Million Moms is a kind of a startup which is Hyderabad based. At the same time, they are emerging. GradRight is for providing on-site education. On-site education means what? The students, many students from Telangana as well as Andhra Pradesh as well as the southern part of the country, they travel abroad to pursue. For them, this company is guiding them in terms of scholarship, very authorized manner. But we don't know, this year is going to be an exception for them, because as you see, I don't think people are going to fly to pursue their education. So these are the emerging startups in terms of their, every startup is having some or other challenge. You can see here, it's not like these are the guys who are going to win. No, Unacademy was existing for last 3 years, but the rise in number of users happened in last 2 months. Shuttle everyone was using, but now you see because of this lockdown, the number of users have come down. Bambario is another example. Every newborn child required a diaper, so this guy is struggling hard and to push that eco-friendly product. Now that is an eco-friendly product. And venture capitalists are betting on these two companies. You can see because of this social distance, because of social distance, and I seriously doubt people are going to travel even in cars as well as share mode of cars and etc. So in that case, what happens? I think demand for these vehicles are going to increase. Now, what are these? See, these are like rental agents. They rent these bikes, Ogo and Bounce. They rent bike, they rent these kind of bikes, and they charge rent per kilometer of 3 rupees or something. So in that case, what happens? I think many users will get into this kind of this kind of a mode of transport. If you know the driving, just you book a figure out where is that particular bike, and you go and book that particular bike. You can use it and you park it, provided if they maintain the sanitization and etc. But many venture capitalists are positive on these two companies, and they may fund these two companies. Why? Because the demand for such kind of vehicles are going to be huge. Why? Because I don't see the people are going to buy a particular bike in post COVID-19 because of so many layoffs and so many job losses and banking constraints, banking issues. I think people can use this as one of the good mode of transport. That is one. Another thing VCs are betting is what? The SaaS. We discussed already. SaaS is nothing but software is accessed as a subscription rather than the bought and installed, right? So these are the startup companies, where they are providing a SaaS platform. And surprisingly, after COVID-19, they are getting huge business from global markets. They are getting clients from US, they are getting clients from UK. Why? Because they don't want to buy software, they want to have a subscription mode, and these are the companies, they are going to provide cloud services, cyber security services, right? And so that is the reason the venture capitalists are also betting on SaaS kind of startups. So in a way you can understand how the future is going. Cloud computing, I said, if a startup company provides such kind of a cloud space and cloud computing solutions, cloud computing services, cyber security services, they can able to do well. And and as I said, they are getting global customers. Their revenue is in terms of dollars. Let us see the facts sheet. I said I'll be talking about fact sheet for 3 companies. If you see the Byju's, Byju's is one of the unicorn. We can see their revenues in the last year 2.8 billion rupees, and their market valuation is $10 billion. Their total funding also we have seen $1.2 billion, right? Their total funding also we have seen $1.2 billion. Latest updates, you can see their employees, how many employees are there, and how many visitors are there on website, and what is the revenue, right? And you can see the revenue curve, their revenue graph is increasing. You can see from 2016 to 2017, there is a huge increase, 1.10 billion to 2.47 billion. It means what? Almost like 124% increase in their revenues in span of 1 year. And from 2017 to 2018, you can see 2.47 to 4.90, almost like 100% increase. But what happened from 2018 to 2019, the revenue has come down, 4.90 to 2.8. That's the reason you can see the growth is given 42% negative. But because of this COVID, I think Byju's is benefiting a lot. Why? Because Byju's provides this NEET coaching material and IIT coaching material, and all the coaching institutions are closed. I think Byju is taking the advantage. and latest data is not available in terms of user base is concerned, but in terms of valuation, you can see on 1st May 2020, the valuation of this particular company is $10 billion. And the number of users also, you can see how many users are there. There are more than 50 million users are there. They have 50 million users, and active paying subscriptions are almost like 3 million users. You can see this talks about the growth of this particular company. And who are the competitors? You can also see the competitors. Byju's is having a competitor, Vedantu. Vedantu is also similar kind of a platform. Topper is also another kind of a startup company, which is an edutech. These are all edutech companies, by the way. Vedantu is edutech company, Byju is edutech company, Topper is edutech company. Simply Learn is existing, but it is not in the school segment. Byju is in the school segment, Vedantu is in school segment, Topper is also school segment. Simply Learn is for working professionals. That will help you to, let's say, someone wants to shift their career from technology to finance or finance to technology. Simply Learn provides such kind of a service. So these are all competitive companies, but we can see there is a good business which is going to be, and post COVID-19 also I am sure Byju's is going to have more and more number base. School education is a recession free. We know how tech companies are venturing into school and how they are approaching school and how they are customizing programs for kids and etc. So that's about the Byju's thing. Let us see OYO Rooms. What happened with OYO Rooms? OYO Rooms, you can see their revenues. The revenues are $67.1 billion in the previous financial year. That is what 31st March 2019. The latest data is missing. Market valuation on July 2019 is given $10 billion. Total funding is also given 3.3. Look at the growth. What is happening with the growth? As I see, lockdown, and because of the lockdown, you can see their growth has declined for last 2 to 3 months. Their growth has come down. They are laying off their employees. You can see their employee negative 1%. You can see here, and annual growth is 2015 was 240 million, but 2017 there is a good business. 2018 there is a decline in revenue. 2019, abnormal increase. Where is $14 billion rupees, and where is 67 billion rupees? I think the growth is almost like 350%. But 2020, I think it is going to be the same like 2015 kind of scenario. Why? Because of lockdown, travel is stopped, tourism is stopped. I don't think people are going to own OYO Rooms, right? So that's about it. And you can see their market share. How is their market share? They have a presence in India, they have a presence in China, they also have a presence in other countries. In fact, this is the company, they have spent huge funding for acquisitions in 2019 and 18. They have acquired, keep on acquiring, China-based startup companies. They have acquired a good number of companies, and their growth is huge. But unfortunately, because of this pandemic, I think the valuations are going to go down. That is for sure. And in that case, OYO need to reinvent their business model or slightly change their business model, and we'll see what happens with these companies. And who are the competitors? You can see the competitors: OYO Rooms, Yatra, and Fab Hotels, Make My Trip, Clear Trip. And look at their valuation. I think OYO Rooms is almost like $10 billion company. The rest of them, Make My Trip is only $1.7 billion company. The rest of them are not at all competitors. Even Make My Trip is also not a competitor in terms of OYO Rooms is concerned. But this pandemic has become a biggest threat for this particular startup. Let us see the Ola fact sheet. Look at the Ola fact sheet. What is happening with Ola fact sheet? The revenues are $22.2 billion. Market valuation is 5.5. Total funding is $3.8 million. How they have raised capital funding, we have seen, we have understood what is Series D, Series E funding, and F funding, and G funding. And the latest updates, again, the growth is declined. Why? Because no business for last 2 to 3 months. So they are laying off people. They are laying off their employees. Why? See, why these companies are laying off their employees? Because as I said, for these startup companies, human capital is an asset. At the same time, human capital is also an expense. So that is the reason they are getting rid of these employees in order to improve their cash runway rate and in order to improve their survival rate in this pandemic situation. And you can see their employee base 7903. I think it has come down to 6,000 now. Latest news 2 days back, 1,400 employees have been laid off by Ola, and that comes to 6,000 employees. Grab is a Singapore-based taxi hailing company. Uber is San Francisco based taxi hailing company. Meru Cabs is Indian based company. So there is no competitor exactly if you see for Ola, but there are global competitors. The revenue growth is increasing, but they have challenges. They have challenges because of this lockdown. Post lockdown also they are going to have challenges, right? How are they going to attract customers and etc. Right. At the same time, see, these companies have did a lot, for a common man. I mean to say, for common man, used to dream of riding a car, right, or getting into the car and have the car ride. But these companies have fulfilled their dreams, in terms of cashback offers or one ride free offers, right? At the same time, they are also giving employment, indirect employment to, like, Ola bike. If you see Ola bike, someone is coming and picking the customer, right? For that, he is getting incentive, right? So these companies have done a lot, for the common man in the country. So these companies should exist, because see, OYO has become a big threat, during the time of 17 and 18. It has become a big threat for five-star hotels. Five-star hotel rooms were not getting booked. Their inventories were empty completely because of these OYO rooms. The kind of prices they were offering during 2017 and 18 and 19. So these startup companies challenged big players. I think these companies should exist. These companies should survive. These companies should get funding. It will help to the economy. It will help to the common man. They will grow, and people also will grow, and economy also will grow. So that is what we wish for. But let's see what happens, right? Then okay, we discussed about all the aspects, the financing aspect we discussed, the cash flow effect also we have seen. And how do you get this guidance on startups? And let's say some of, maybe one of you want to have do some kind of a startup. You have an idea, but you don't know whom to approach. How do you get this funding and etc. There are places in Hyderabad you can visit T-Hub once, and we can also visit V-Hub, that is for women entrepreneurship. Then CIE and IIIT Hyderabad is also having Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. They are also helping. TiE Hyderabad is also. These are the four places. They are. In fact, T-Hub is helping startup entrepreneurs, providing office space and office share space and etc. V-Hub is helping for women entrepreneurs. These are the appropriate places for getting the right guidance and getting. So opportunities, you have every field. You have opportunities. Agriculture, you have enormous opportunities. If you include technology to agri, we call it as agri-tech. Many startups are thinking to get into agri-tech to make organic products, dairy products, and etc. Health tech and medtech is going to revolutionize, and many companies are venturing already health tech and medtech because of this pandemic. Many companies have already ventured, and they are venturing. Education, we have already seen this Coursera, edX, Khan Academy. These are not new. These are all existing. I remember 2012. I think Salma is there online. I addressed on this. Coursera, edX, Khan Academy. These are not new, but the usage of these courses have increased in this COVID-19. These are all very much existing and very much established place. On technology, startups are interested in AI, blockchain, 3D printing. I think they are going to have a huge opportunity on technology side, because I was listening to one webinar. They said they figured out that every enterprise want to invest more and more on technology. So that will be helpful for these companies. More tech users, more good news for AI, more good news for blockchain, and etc. Finance and banking, fintech is also happening. P2P lending companies are coming up. And even if you see an example of Ola is also there, Ola Money. Uber is also there in Uber Money. So in a way, they are also trying to get into this fintech kind of a business. Fintech is one side, TechFin is also other side. Technology companies venturing into finance. Finance companies are also venturing into technology. So fintech and TechFin is also a good opportunity. And on energy side, some startups are projecting these weather forecasts, and they are recommending the weather forecast to agriculture, and they are into that business. Electric vehicles, I don't know, it was a boom, but we don't know what happens post COVID-19, because electric vehicles comes with a huge budget, and post COVID-19, who will buy these electric vehicles at what cost? And I don't know, government was giving huge subsidies. Whether they are going to provide the huge subsidies for electric vehicles or not, we'll see, we'll wait. Food industry is another emerging startup. We already discussed about the funding part, startup funding. How do you get? We have already discussed about 3F, then high net worth individuals, then trust also. We have seen Tata Group invested huge. Premji also invested huge in startups. Angel investors, they have made investments. Venture capitalists, like Kalari Capital, Sequoia Capital, SoftBank. SoftBank is Japanese-based SoftBank, which has invested in almost all top unicorns of the country. Very recently, the KKR Group invested in Jio. Surprisingly, this COVID-19, I think, is not stopping Jio. Jio attracted 5 investment deals. In last 15 days. In last 15 days, they have attracted 5 investments, and one investment is from Facebook, and other investment from KKR, and the 3 other companies are there. Jio is also a startup company, right? Otherwise, it was an oil-based company, and ventured into telecom in 2016. Now you see where is that company. That is what the cash rich companies, they convert the opportunity, right, crisis into an opportunity. So KKR is paying 113.7 billion rupees. That is what $1.5 billion for a stake of 2.3 stake. That is what in Jio. So they are investing in that. Now let us see who are the investors. We have seen, Series A funding, B funding, C funding, D funding, but who are these? Who are these investors? Are these investors Indian banks? Are these investors are Indian venture capitalist companies? Who are these investors? See, the majority of the investment in Indian startups are by US venture capitalist companies and China venture capitalist companies. Very few Indian venture capitalist companies have invested in Indian startups. You can see Big Basket. You can see Big Basket on Alibaba. Alibaba is a Chinese VC company, Chinese e-commerce company. They have invested 455 millions. Baidu, so Tencent is again Chinese investor, invested 75.4. Ola, you can see these are the Chinese-based venture capitalist companies, invested $1.65 billion. Oyo Rooms, you can see all of them are Chinese investors. So they have invested in the growth story of Indian startup. Not only this, some of them are US based, like Tiger Global is there, then SoftBank, Japanese based, is there. So US based, Japanese based, Korea based, they are investing on Indian startups, right? So what is going to happen post COVID? See, these economies were hit. US is getting affected. Japan is getting affected, Korea is getting affected, China is recovering. That's a different story. But if they get affected, the venture capitalists also will get affected. And in India, these companies are getting affected. We have seen Ola is getting affected, Oyo Rooms is getting affected, right? And in that case, what happens? Funding is also a problem, and valuations are also going to be a problem, right? So in that case, what happens? There can be a potential mergers and acquisitions are going to take place. Maybe Chinese investors may acquire such companies, or they may say we'll exit from these businesses by selling it to someone. What happened with Flipkart? I think Flipkart was the best example of Indian successful startup story. But what happened finally? The SoftBank decided the fate of Flipkart. They said no, we want to exit, and they gave their share to Walmart. Now you see the Flipkart has become the Walmart. So the same thing is going to expect in 2020 or 2021 with some kind of a startups where the majority of the investment is by these investors, right? These are the Indian venture capitalist companies. You can see some of them are Mangalore based, some of them Gurgaon based, and etc. They are investing where? You can see they are investing Hellenian Ventures. They are investing since 2006. They are investing in online services, e-commerce, mobility, enterprise, right? E-commerce is dominating. Even crisis, e-commerce is dominating. Provided this lockdown is clear, I think more business is going to be there for e-commerce, internet, outsource. You can see more or less, everyone is investing in services. Kalari Capital, to the surprise, you can see they are investing in health and wellness, digital media, social media. I think all of them are. COVID-19 is not going to affect these players. You can see health, wellness, no effect. Digital media, no effect. Social media, no effect. E-commerce, and I think. So that is what you can see their portfolios and their sectors and etc. How much is their investment and where they have invested also you can see. Right. So then what happens, as I said, what happens, if there is a funding crunch, and what if, if you fail to get funding, then you have to prepare for your exit options. And you can see what happened with a few big companies, big startup companies, what happened with their exit options. You can see Facebook acquired WhatsApp, at $19 billion. I think in 2014 or so, yeah, in 2014 they acquired. Then was what WhatsApp established in 2009 during that particular US 2008-9 crisis. WhatsApp got established, and Facebook acquired WhatsApp in 2019 at what valuation? I think at $19 billion. LinkedIn is another startup company acquired by Microsoft at what price? $26.2 billion. Google acquired YouTube. These are all not developed. See, these WhatsApp or LinkedIn or YouTube, they are not developed by the parent companies. Just they have acquired. Why? They were cash rich. They were cash rich. They have cash rich, and they have paid abnormal valuation and acquired these companies. We discussed what happened with Flipkart and Walmart. 2015. Flipkart had a tough time. 16 also they had a tough time. Very tough time. And Snapdeal also they had a very tough time. So funding was a big issue for these companies. And finally, what happened? The Japanese venture capital fund, that is what Japanese venture capital SoftBank decided to sell the particular stake to Walmart. That's how it happened. Zomato, what happened with Zomato? Zomato is also acquired Uber Eats for 350 million. So this is going to happen, I think, in next 2 years or 3 years. Otherwise, what happened if there was no COVID? To be frank, if there was no COVID, these big startup companies, Indian startup company, Ola was planning for IPO. Oyo Rooms were planning for IPO. Baiju is also planning for IPO. IPO means what? Private companies or startup companies becoming public. They wish to give the shares. They wish to give their ownership to the public. That was the impression. And in the very beginning of the 2020, the media was talking about the top 5 unicorns are going to plan for IPOs in the next 1 to 2 years. I think that's a question mark for next year, at least for next 2 years. That is a safe exit option, but the markets are down, and when markets are down, I don't think
Mr. Chandrasekhar, sir, can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? I request the participants to kindly bear with us. There is some technical problem at the speaker's side. We will just resume back. Thank you.
Now, can you hear me, madam? Hello?
Sir, we are hearing you now.
Hello? Yeah,
Yes,
Yes,
sir, we
sir.
there
can
was
hear
some
you.
power disconnection. That's
It
fine.
is
That's fine.
okay.
Power disconnection. So I was talking. So exit options I was talking about, right? Right. So let us go to the next discussion. So what are the challenges these startups are going to have? Raising money is going to be a big challenge. Raising finances is going to be a big challenge. As of now, we have seen Indian startups were raising money. Indian startups were raising money from US and UK markets, Chinese markets, and etc. But their economies are also going to be slow down, and their venture capital firms also will rethink, whether to invest, whether to continue the investment in Indian startups or not. So operating capital is going to be a big problem. Long-term capital is also going to be a big problem. Recruiting and retaining human capital is a big threat. Recruiting and retaining human capital is a big threat for Indian companies, Indian startup companies. Why? Because now they don't see the brighter side of ESOPs. On contrary, there are Ivy League MBA passed out students. They were complaining that the companies which they offered them the placement, they are taking out their placements, they are deferring their placements. So such kind of talent may get into this startup business. That is also possible. Then existing business model, change in business model, we already discussed. OYO rooms may need to think about reinvent their business model. Ola also need to think about reinvent their business model, right? Like that, the startup companies need to think of reinventing their business models. Now we have already seen the marketing is going to be a big problem for the startup companies. They may not be able to provide these cashbacks, discounts, and reward points, which were very much lucrative to attract Indian customers. Operations, we have already seen many startups were based on, they were getting their inputs from, as I was giving my friend's example, he was getting his input raw material from China. So in that case, what happens, whether it is global operations or regional operations? Then consolidations, this is what we have shown you what happened in the previous case. Consolidations or mergers and acquisitions, how Facebook acquired WhatsApp or how Walmart acquired Flipkart. We could see more and more such cases in coming next 2 years. The cash rich companies are going to have the advantage of this. Finally, ultimately what happens because of this crisis, their valuations will go down. Once their valuations goes down, the immediate effect we see, the funding goes down. If funding goes down, the survival goes down. Survival goes down means what? Ultimate threat is what? The employee layoffs. So post COVID-19 startup opportunities, we have already seen. Entertainment is one which is picking up. Gaming industry is picking up. Diversification of business is going to happen. I'll talk about ITC in a few minutes. EduTech companies, as I said, EduTech companies are in boom. We have to see, we should not conclude that EduTech companies are going to be like rockstar companies. Maybe because of this close down, because of this lockdown, people are using EduTech companies and their services. But we have to see, and we have to wait till the time of this lockdown period over. Once the things are normal, we have to see their performance. Health tech is certainly going to improve. Why? Because more and more people are going to be health conscious, and health access, that is the most important thing. Health tech is going to emerge. EduTech is going to emerge. Home infrastructure is also going to emerge. The new startups may come in providing home infrastructure and etc. Another important aspect is what the hiring practices will change post this COVID-19. I don't think fixed term employment will exist. It is project based hiring, or the task based hiring, or such kind of hiring will happen. And diversification of business, like ITC. ITC was known for a tobacco business, but now if you see, ITC is there in 8 different industries. So similarly, startups may also need to think and to diversify their businesses, and they need to diversify their presence in different industries. And ultimately, how do we adopt the startup ecosystem? As I said, if at all someone who is interested to know more and more about startup ecosystem, please, the first source is LinkedIn, because most of the founders are very active on LinkedIn. they post for internship opportunities, they post job recruitments and etc. So you will come to know startups, you will come to know about their founders, you will come to know their businesses and etc. Attend a couple of startup events using Mera events. Internship in startups are plenty. Participate in B School startup competitions. In fact, IP does one program on Startopedia in the month of February every year. So we encourage the ideas to come and present. In fact, IP also invest money in such kind of early stage startups. So many B schools are doing so. Spend time in reading newspapers such as Mint and Business Line, especially the startup pages. Every week 3 days they are dedicating one page for startups and deals. If you start reading them, you will understand the startup ecosystem. Finally, it's a teamwork. It's a give and take business. Be like a giver. You have to go and assist to some startup company, then you will get the benefit. So with this, I am concluding my presentation, and I would say thank you for listening for last 1.5 hours. If you have any questions, I'm ready to address. Before that, let me thank the management.
Thank you, sir. That was the end
Yeah.
session. Thank you, sir. That was the enriching session. We are indeed facing multiple challenges, but with the right support and the in-depth knowledge that we gain today, we will definitely leverage the right technology. I am sure all can sail through this crisis. It's time we revamp our entrepreneurial spirits, upgrade our social media brand, and build our virtual network so that we can sustain in the post-COVID times. So, there are a couple of questions lined up for you. One of the participants wishes to know, he wants you to throw some light on the impact of soft skill and behavioral skills training startup. Sir, are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Did you get the question, sir?
Yeah. Could you please repeat it once again?
He wants you to throw some light on the impact of soft life and behavioral skills training startup.
See, one thing regarding soft skills, when post COVID-19, it is definitely a matter. And I think I was attending one of the webinar for Broadridge company CEO. He mentioned, technology company CEO. He said that the most important skill in lockdown time as well as post COVID-19 is what writing. Because now the employees are going to work from their homes, and the official communication is going to be in the written form, right? See, when they were sitting in offices, they used to take their friends' help, their views, and etc. That's how they do the writing communication. But the working from home, I think writing skill is going to be a it's a challenging. At the same time, if you have a good writing skill, you are having an edge. At the same time, soft skills are always in demand. Whether it is recession, no recession, lockdown, no lockdown, without soft skills, we cannot survive, right? So yes, if you keep on adding your skill set, especially in terms of writing, spoken, certainly, we are going to have the future, whether it is lockdown or no lockdown, or COVID or no COVID.
Okay, sir. Thank you. But there is another question, sir. It is on the bike rentals that you have mentioned about. The attendee asks, the bike rentals have an option of parking and leaving the bike anywhere that is their use. Now,
Right.
should that be a factor which attracted many people to opt for the rental service? And looking at the way
Right.
the virus is spreading, how is sanitizing these bikes after every use possible? And
Right.
also, the use of Ola and Uber will be unaffected, and these bike rentals use will come down. Can you share transport-related services set up?
Right. See, first of all, getting the data is a question mark, and coming to this Vogo and Bounce bikes, as rightly mentioned, you have the flexibility. You can pick from anywhere and you can leave it anywhere, right? And at the same time, because of this corona thing and etc., that's the reason VCs are very careful. They were asking, they are expecting, the companies will take more sanitization related issues and overcome these parking issues and etc. Obviously, what happens when they get demand, and immediately, the company may create rules. Previously, what happened, there is no demand, so that's the reason they are asking you, okay, pick it from anywhere, leave it anywhere. No. Now what happens, for one bike, there are 10 customers. Then company will demand, no, you need to go to that particular station, pick that particular vehicle from that particular station. I think the companies are going to be in that kind of a station. And companies are also going to do that sanitization thing, because they know that it's a big opportunity for them. This crisis is a big opportunity for them. So I'm sure that, they are going to reinvent their business model, and it will be a win-win situation for everyone, because there are many people who can't afford a two-wheeler. They can't buy two-wheeler. At the same time, he can't go and travel in a group of people. So for them, okay, that's fine. Let me walk for a kilometer and have the ride and visit office and come back. I think it's a win-win situation. Who will give that luxury? That's what my take.
Okay, so there is one more question.
Yeah.
Whether the participant wishes to know, is it the right time for a new startup? When can they start and what measures should they take?
Sure. Why? Because see, during this recession, the financial crisis happened in 2008 and 9. Companies like WhatsApp, companies like Uber, companies like Airbnb, these are all unicorn companies. Their incubation happened in 2009, during the crisis time, and within 10 years they have become unicorn. So the same thing, many opportunities are there in this crisis time as well. And if you are keen, and it is the right time to start. As I said, the companies are deferring placements. If companies are deferring placement, they can't go and pursue another degree. So what do? They reinvent the ideas. They'll understand the problems. What are the problems which are faced by citizens, or what are the problems which are faced by the common man, right? What solutions you can provide, kids who are sitting at home without schooling and etc., right? If you think on these lines, you will get some innovative ideas. Those innovative ideas becomes your incubation ideas. I think it is the right time to do, and I'm sure that more and more startups will come in, even though they have the funding issue, but more startups will come for the challenges what we are facing to address them.
Okay, sir, thank you so much for answering those questions. I now call upon Mrs. Atya Nusrat, the IQAC coordinator at Villamari Degree College, to propose the vote of thanks and take over the proceedings.
Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Atya Nusrat, IQAC Coordinator, Villamari Degree College. I deem it honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks today. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Philomena Madam for her able guidance throughout. I also thank Ms. Revati Devi Mathur, in charge, Villamari Degree College for Women, for her untiring support and constant encouragement. A heartfelt thanks to the head department of BBA, Ms. Sapna Mathur, for her valuable contribution and efforts. I would like to extend my congenial thanks to our keynote speaker today, Mr. Chandrasekhar, for having endured his precious time and obliging to our webinar. A big appreciation and thanks to all the distinguished attendees for investing their interest and overwhelming participation. A special gratitude to the IQAC, who are the forerunners and the people backstage, without whom this webinar wouldn't be a resounding success. We wish to continue our legacy of successful webinars by improving every time. and so we appreciate your opinions so that we implement and come back better next time. Dear attendees, help us improve by submitting a feedback form. The feedback form is now available in the chat box. Please go ahead and access the link to submit your feedback, and be ensured that your submission of the feedback form confirms your certificate. E-certificates will reach you within a week. If there are any queries related to the certificate issue, please drop a mail to the technical team after 1 week. I request Mr. Chandrasekhar sir to acknowledge this memento of appreciation for your valuable contribution in this confab. Thank you, sir. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. For further queries, reach us at iqacvmdc@gmail.com. The details are also displayed on the screen. Until then, keep calm, stay safe. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, just give me one minute, madam. Just give me 1 minute.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, just I would like to share my this thing so that it will be useful for the participants. You can see my contact details, right? Can you see my contact details, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's displayed on the screen.
So I advise the participants to make a note of my contact details. All my articles are available on SSRN page. You can download my articles on SSRN page. If you wish to connect me on LinkedIn, you can also connect me on LinkedIn. Just mention in the message that you have attended this webinar. And if someone is interested to do some sort of a webinar, see, my interest areas are technology, startups, financial modeling, valuation, right? And if this continues, if this lockdown continues, I would like to reach more and more people. In case if you wish, I'm available, and do let me know. But you can read through my articles, you will get more insights. You can also do collaborate and etc. Right? So finally, I thank you, Villamary College, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.